The finale of White Heat is one of the most famous death scenes in movie history and one of the most iconic moments in Jimmy Cagney's storied career. Despite that, or really because of that, he hated the movie, even though it gave him the comeback he was after. Cagney had had his fill of playing criminals. He wanted to make movies kids could see and be inspired by. And he came to loathe this film, angry that this snarling psycho might become the role for which he was best remembered. Despite a growing backlash against crime pictures, White Heat was one of the biggest hits of 1949. Maybe people wanted nothing more than a riotously entertaining melodrama. And thanks to Raoul Walsh's rambunctious direction, White Heat delivered the goods in spades. But reviewers were largely unkind, criticizing the film for being too brutal and mean-spirited. 1 week after he'd written a laudatory critique in the New York Times, critic Bosley Crowther, under pressure from social guardians, recanted his review and branded the film a potentially harmful form of entertainment. In the intervening years, more viewers and critics have come to see the film as a sort of savage black comedy, a send-up of Cagney's 30s screen persona. An intriguing take on the film came from John Howard Lawson, one of the Hollywood 10, who watched it with other inmates while serving a prison sentence for contempt of Congress. In a 1953 essay entitled "Film in the Battle of Ideas," Lawson said that White Heat left a deep impression on the prison audience, many of whom he described as decent, well-intentioned people who recognize the forces which drove them to crime are inherent in our present social system. The inmates held a, quote, deep bitterness, a feeling that the individual has no chance in a jungle society unless he adopts the way of the jungle. White Heat, he said, idealized this code of the jungle and advertised it as a way of life. The prison audience, and this is probably true of any audience, associated the fictitious character with Cagney's reputation. Spectators saw him as an attractive symbol of toughness, defending himself against a cruel and irrational society. Inmates loved Cody, saying he has the guts to stand up and fight back. This emphasis on the individual's total depravity in a depraved society, Lawson concluded, rejects the possibility of rational social cooperation. Man is doomed to prowl alone, a beast in the jungle. Wow. Maybe you thought people didn't take movies all that seriously 66 years ago. One of the most famous scenes in White Heat is Cody sparking a riot in the prison mess hall when he learns of his mother's death. Well, it almost didn't happen because Warner production executives felt the scene was too costly to shoot, what with the colossal set and hundreds of extras. They told Walsh to rework the scene to take place in the prison chapel instead. But Walsh was a master of choreographing action scenes with lots of moving parts, and he guaranteed he could deliver the mess hall scene on time and on budget. The entire thing was shot in only 3 hours. This scene, the train robbery, and the explosive climax certainly bolster Walsh's reputation as one of the greatest action directors in Hollywood history. Margaret Wycherley, who played Ma Jarrett, was primarily a stage actress in her native England, and for the first 2 decades of the 20th century, appearing in plays written by her husband, Bayard Wheeler. Their son, Anthony Wheeler, would go on to be an in-demand screenwriter with 41 credits, several in collaboration with John Huston. Wycherley appeared in only 1 silent film and didn't make a talkie until Todd Browning directed her in 1929's The 13th Chair. She made only 1 more movie in Hollywood until she was cast as Gary Cooper's mother in the 1941 hit Sergeant York, for which she earned an Oscar nomination. After that, playing mothers was her specialty in films such as Random Harvest, The Moon is Down, and The Yearling. Let's keep the discussion going on the Noir Alley Facebook page and Twitter feed, and make sure you're back here next week when I present another film in which a popular actor from 1930s Warner Brothers crime films reprises one of his most famous roles, Little Caesar, Edward G. Robinson, returns for an encore opposite Bogey and Bacall in the John Huston classic, Key Largo. Until then, made it, Ma! Top of the world!